Before he departs in about a week, maybe less, for Big Ten Media Days in Indianapolis, correct?
Correct. We'll have a set on the field at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Oh, nice.
On CBS Sports Network, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Tuesday, and then 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Wednesday and Thursday. That's 2 hours of the Cover 3 podcast live on CBS Sports Network from Big Ten Media Days.
I wonder, can people do 2 screens? Can they stream this show from Charlotte on YouTube, but also keep do picture-in-picture and have Chip and the boys of the Cover 3 podcast in like a little box? So we can keep tabs on both. I don't know. I don't know if people will do that.
With the right, with the great good people at Paramount Plus offering you so many different ways to be able to stream all of your favorite CBS properties.
Very nice.
I'm sure we could figure it out.
Very, very nice. All right, let's start with the definition of is. Yeah, so Clemson has decided that they are going to go full, trying to not necessarily dip into the political history here. Go full. It all depends on what the definition of is.
Have you heard this week's Monday's Cover 3 podcast?
I have not. Did you guys talk about this?
Yeah. No, 100%.
All right, good.
He was like, we're going right back to the playbook of different kinds of scandals of a different decade when it comes to executive office. Yes.
So what are your thoughts on Clemson and this legal shot in the dark?
Hey, lawyers be lawyers.
Right, absolutely.
No, I mean this is this is why we have entire series, right? I mean, how many episodes of Matlock, end with connecting dots that you hadn't even thought of before, right? It's just so what I did not look at this as much of a groundbreaking revelation. I'm not going to laugh it off entirely either. There is so much going forward in terms of competing lawsuits in different jurisdictions, and both sides of both the Florida State and the Clemson lawsuits seem to be picking up wins and losses at every single turn. I mean, it is daggum baseball out there. Right?
I don't know that any of the so-called wins are wins or losses are losses.
Sure. Then you and I are basically talking about the same thing. Nothing's changed.
Right. The cases are going to be heard in Florida and North Carolina and in South Carolina and North Carolina.
Yeah.
We're going to have 4 cases going on.
Have you already discussed it with the audience yet? Like what what Clemson's argument, I'm not even going to say what Clemson's argument is pointing to?
Well, what I said this earlier, that ultimately they're saying, hey, if we're not in the league anymore, then basically the grant of rights doesn't apply to us. And I wonder why nobody has tried that before, since every school's attorneys have looked at it. So, look, I've said from the very beginning, this is all designed to get a settlement, but I don't know that that's going to happen. So I think there's a lot of wasting money going on.
Well, it's college athletics.
I totally understand. They're used to it.
Yeah, we're used to it here. So there's some big, you can't fire me, I quit energy to the methods here. What you owe your rights, your media rights to the conference. It is granted if the school is a league member. So what if I'm not a league member?
Exactly.
Do I owe it to you? Like, I tend to think that the lawyers be lawyering.
Yeah.
Is my big read here. I think there are other movements within the marketplace as they speak that have gotten my attention a little bit more, but certainly we proceed on with this ongoing litigation between the Atlantic Coast Conference and its 2 disgruntled members.
Florida State, by the way, has called. It was a member of the board of trustees membership meeting for it's like a couple of days after ACC football media days. Who knows what comes out of that?
Oh, I know.
What comes out of it?
Oh, yeah. All right. So at least I know what's on the agenda. Who knows what comes out of it.
Right.
You could add an agenda item an hour before. I don't know exactly what their laws are, but the 2 things that are on there Number one are fiscal related, like a revenue budget proposal approval situation. Number two is continued pursuit of AAU status and, the efforts that are required there.
AAU, which makes them more attractive to the Big Ten,
Yes.
which wants all of their members to be AAU, even though, the ACC is as strong an academic conference as there is in the country. That is not a requirement for them. Nebraska is no longer an AAU member, but they were at the time of entry into the Big Ten. Again, these things are more cosmetic, I guess, than anything else. But what do you?
I think it's important for Florida State because, based on my understanding, is Florida State's path forward. In addition to this, like renegade rip through all of the status quo and stability of the higher college sports landscape, as they have been aggressively, not just for AAU status for conference realignment, but for the future of the university, which is facing financial struggles, have decided to go hard on research. And they have seen an influx of, the investment from outside sources. They are doing everything they can to be able to better themselves in their future as a university by making themselves a much more prestigious research university than they were 30 years ago. So to me, I am seeing, yes, the alignment of the ACC football kickoff, of this board of trustees meeting, of the incoming August 15th deadline if Florida State is going to try to get out for the 2025 football season. I recognize that as well, but my understanding, and I'll go ahead and cite my source here, Matt Baker of the Tampa Bay Times, who's done a great job of covering a lot of the litigation and the paperwork and just doing solid beat work, the lost art in these days. But Matt, he was able to be like, all right, well, look, I understand why Twitter's going crazy, but let me just tell you, this is what's on the agenda. These are the reasons why it makes sense for this to happen, because just like Media Days comes after all of the coaches have been out on vacation spending time with their families, university business also goes on pause, and then right here at the end of July, early August, starts to pick up again. So there's I don't think this is going to be the meeting that leads to the announcement. So I'm not making too much of it.
Chip Patterson is joining us here. What do you make of Brett McMurphy from the Action Network basically saying that his intel says that there's no interest in the SEC and the Big Ten for various reasons? One, they just went through this massive amount of expansion. There's no money to add more mouths to feed, that there's no motivation other than to keep them from somebody else. But if both sides aren't interested, there's nowhere really to go. And in the case of one unnamed Big Ten administrator, basically saying, who wants any part of Florida State and their petulance? What do you make of that story?
It falls in line with the way that I have guessed, and I'm going to be very, very particular with my words.
Sure.
It is the way that I've guessed that this is playing out, where there are probably media-driven forces that acknowledge the addition of Florida State would be a massive boost to the Big Ten. And what Florida State would bring, because Florida State does have a draw that is not just in Florida. Florida State is not a Notre Dame level national brand, but Florida State is a national brand. And to add that to your portfolio and to be able to constantly assemble matchups with, it's the helmets, right? We throw two helmets on an advertisement on the screen. How many people sitting on their couch say, man, I want to watch that game? Adding Florida State to that portfolio from a media-driven perspective, I think that's attractive. And again, this is what I guess.
Right.
And I guess that the university presidents that have to approve such actions aren't in yet.
Right.
And I have thought, even going back to some of the information that was coming out of the Big 12 and the idea that the Big 12 was having conversations. Like I wonder if there are conflicts where the roadblock for action are the actual voices and the individuals who are required to make any kind of action happen. And if you're not going to have the vote, I mean, it's the same thing as a lot of conference decisions. If you're not going to have the votes, you don't take the vote.
Right.
If you know you don't have the votes, we're not even moving forward. It's not going to even be a question. And so I think that while there are probably market forces that would like to see Florida State maybe in another conference with different matchups on a week-to-week basis, I think that there are others that need to be persuaded. And my guess is that those are university presidents and administrators and ones that probably are tied to some of the reporting that we're getting from Brett at the Action Network.
Chip Patterson is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. The other thing is, like, if Florida State could add private equity funding to bridge their own gap,
sure,
wouldn't the ACC be the best place for them anyway?
It might be too late for that. It might just be that train might have left the station, hurt feelings and all. You know, you can't trash somebody in front of their face, in front of their friends and family, and then call them up 2 weeks later and be like, "Hey, man, can I join your group for that 8:42 time?"
But why? I understand that. But why not? If there is a mutually beneficial reason for both sides to simply let bygones be bygones and move on.
I'm not sure there is.
You don't think there's a mutually beneficial, like, because to me, the ACC also needs Florida State. Do you think do you think Florida State needs the ACC more than the ACC needs Florida State?
I've already advanced myself to thinking that they've made too much noise. You just can't go back. And yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Florida State is not part of the ACC's history.
Right.
Florida State just showed up. There are no deep emotional ties. Florida State, I mean, from the history of the ACC, Florida State just showed up and they ran the league. Sure. They were the villains of the league. Absolutely. But I kind of tend to think that if they were to go on their way, the ACC would still exist as the ACC, and the ACC would be in a spot where they don't need the Florida State for survival. And I think it's the thing that I've really dug into that piece of it. And I believe the ACC could still be just fine as a conference.
Without Florida State. But do the other members have to stay put? Clemson has to stay. Miami has to stay, even though Miami has been not quite the great boon we all hoped it might be. If Clemson stays and Florida State goes, everything's okay?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. I don't.
It's still like look at the Big 12, look at the ACC. How about this? Let's do a thought experiment. Florida State has nowhere to go, but they've already just caused so many problems that it would be an embarrassment to show back up for Thanksgiving dinner. You know, you just got to spend a couple years skipping family events.
Right.
So you know what they do? They go independent. And you know who's investing in college football right now? A media entity that is about to lose the NBA. That would be TNT.
Yes.
TNT has just bought into the college football playoff and clearly has, therefore, expressed interest in college football. So Florida State leaves. Florida State goes independent. They create a scheduling agreement with the Big 12 and a TV package with Warner/Turner. And we get to start calling them First Floor Florida State because their season opener against Southern Miss is on True TV. Who says no to Florida State playing on True TV on September 5th, then getting to have some of these big-time matchups against, Coach Prime in Colorado and Tallahassee on TNT? And what I think Florida State would ultimately be doing is waiting for what I think it might have been Trev Alberts before Trev Alberts left Nebraska to go to Texas A&M. He mentioned something along the lines of the next realignment wave is going to be the one that makes people really uncomfortable. And what I thought that said is the next realignment wave isn't the Power 4 breaking away. It isn't the Power 2 breaking away. It is like line in the sand, even with schools in the SEC or the Big Ten potentially saying like, sorry, you don't make the cut for this one.
Right. Like Vanderbilt, the Vanderbilts of the world are Northwest. Right. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So that's Florida State might just be an independent playing on True TV with private equity money and a Turner deal and a Big 12 scheduling agreement, just waiting for the next time that the college football world is shaken up in a big way.
So what does it cost them to get out of the league? Just the exit fee?
I don't know.
Because according, if the grant of, and I want to end this here, I want to just talk briefly about the Open. Because if the grant of rights is or was, doesn't matter, media monies that Florida State accrues, even as an independent, would still belong to the Atlantic Coast Conference. No?
I'm not a lawyer.
That's the way it reads. It doesn't make a difference where you get your media money.
Right.
It's media money earned by the school. So
for home games.
Maybe they
just play all neutral sites.
Just play a road schedule.
Yeah, just play an all road schedule.
Yeah,
hey, listen, Bobby Bowden, rest in peace. He said we'll play it anytime, anywhere.
That is true.
That's
man.
how he built Florida State into a football power.
I remember the early days of that Bowden era was just absolutely tremendous. All right, Chip Patterson. Open starts on Thursday. Justin Leonard will hit the first tee shot. Your 97 champ at Troon. Todd Hamilton is playing with him, who won at Troon in 2004. What are you looking at this week?
Is no one talking about Scotty Scheffler?
It is quite incredible that I have seen. He is the odds-on favorite, by the way. Is the overwhelming favorite. It's like 4-1. I think he's plus 400 to win. I don't love him here. I don't know why. I just don't.
He doesn't. It's the greens are so small. I think it negates putting.
They're flat too. The greens are pretty flat.
And he's got a great short game.
Yeah,
he's obviously one of the best ball strikers in the world. Here's where the romantic part of me would. So we saw at the PGA, it was Xander who's come up just short, has his breakthrough.
Right.
U.S. Open, Bryson was there at the Masters and there at the PGA, and he has his breakthrough. It could set up for your boy. It could set up for your boy. But
it is. It's Rory.
Ludwig is my will crumble on Sunday pick.
Oh man, he was good. Great at the Scottish until he wasn't.
And
he had such a problem on Sunday.
He's had that so many times. He is an example of all the old cliches and why they are cliches. Sometimes you have to learn how to win. And all of the perfect golf swings and golf shots in the world can't quite get you over the finish line. And I think he's still in that. If this were played in a vacuum and everybody just got to go out on an empty course with no one else around, I would be taking Ludwig to win. But that is not the way the Open Championship or our major championships are decided. So yeah, I'm kind of bouncing around at that. I'll do like a Scotty or Rory. I wanted to get a Hideki, but he missed the cut at the Scottish, so I've got to really reconsider it. I'll be looking for ball striking certainly, but not necessarily discounting somebody who might have issues with the putter.
Tommy Fleetwood.
It would be great.
Tommy Fleetwood. He will be, I think he'll be right there. And I kind of like Patrick Cantlay. Even though I don't really like Patrick Cantlay, I kind of like him this week. I don't know why. I'm just feeling a little Patrick Cantlay. I think it's interesting that Tiger Woods is playing with the dynamic duo. He's playing with Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay.
I cannot believe that. Did you see Rory throw the shot across the bow? Because I had always known from watching on TV what the pace of play situation was with Patrick Cantlay.
He's slow. He's very slow. It's painful.
It was not until I was walking with him that it really started to set in. This is preposterous behavior. I would become furious. And before the Scottish Open, Rory was like, yeah, well, I had the first putt and I marked it.
Yes.
And then Patrick went. And of course he was taking his time as he does. And I had more time to think about it.
Yeah.
was like, oh, so Patrick Cantlay cost Rory McIlroy the U.S. Open with his slow play. Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Well, he's already called him a phallus in an interview earlier this year.
Man, it's
they're not boys.
Yeah, so I don't want to be holding a Patrick Cantlay ticket and having to watch it on Sunday with knowing that I would be profiting off the pain of so many, both on the course and elsewhere.
That is very real. Chip Patterson, my friend, I hope to talk to you next week. If not, I'll talk to you the week after, but I appreciate your time.
Yep, sounds good. Y'all be well.